Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am here to talk about the different types of share capital. In the previous video I have talked about different kinds of shares, and practically the shares are divided into two forms, that is equity shares and preference shares. Preference shares. If you have not watched my video, you can go through the link and you can watch it. Now let us come back to our topic, that is different types of shares capital. Practically, the shares capital are divided into various forms. First, we have nominal, registered, or authorized share capital. Although they have got different names, but it represents the same meaning. Next, we have issued capital, unissued capital, subscribed capital, call up capital, paid up capital, uncalled capital, and at last we have a reserve capital. Now let us know the meaning of share capital. According to the definition, share capital is referred as the capital that is raised by the company by issuing shares to investors. Share capital can be raised at the time of formations of company by issuing shares for cash or non-cash consideration. From these definitions, we need to understand that basically the capital are raised by issuing shares to the various public or investors, and the share capital are raised during the formations of the company. Apart from formations of the company, the share capital are raised for further expansions of their business and diversifications of their business. So this is the simplest definitions of share capital. Now once the share capital are raised, we must remember that it becomes the permanent liabilities of the company. Whatever the capital that the company is going to raise, it becomes what? Permanent liabilities, except redeemable preference shares, as it can be repaid or return. It means redeemable preference shares can be buyback or it can be returned after fixed period of time. Now let us discuss authorized, nominal, or registered share capital. As I have said that although they have got different names, but it represents the single meaning. The authorized capital of a company is the maximum amount of share capital that a company is authorized by its constitutional documents to issue to the shareholder. It means the authorized capital is the maximum amount. Remember the word maximum amount that can be raised by the company, and it should be mentioned in the documents. It means the amount of authorized capital that the company is going to raise it by issuing shares to the public has to be mentioned in the constitutional documents. Now when we talk about documents, it is something like memorandum of association. It must be clearly mentioned in the memorandum of associations. Now authorized capital is the limit to which the company can raise shares to the shareholder and not beyond it. It means the amount that they have registered, okay, the amount that they have registered is the maximum amount that the company can raise it. For example, X Limited is a new company. As we know that when any new companies are formed, they need capital for the formations of the company. They need capital for the operational functioning of the business, and at last they need capital for the future contingency. Let us assume that X Limited is a newly established company and they have registered an authorized capital of 10 lakhs. This is the authorized capital of X Limited and the total amount is 10 lakhs. The company will decide what will be the price of each shares. Let us assume that the price of each share is rupees 10. Okay, this is the price of the shares, and this is the total authorized capital that they have registered. Now, what will be the total shares that they are going to have? Their shares will be around, you need 10, 100,000, 10,000 lakhs. Their total shares will be 1 lakhs. Okay, 1 L. It means the total share of X Limited will be 1 lakhs. This is the total shares that they are going to have. The company raise the authorized capital in such a way that which is quite above the current needs of financing, so that the capital can be further raised when the need arises. It means, as I have said, that X Limited is the newly established company, and they have got an authorized capital of 10 lakhs, and the cost of each share is rupees 10, and the total share is 1 lakhs. Okay, this is the total shares. It means they will register authorized capital in such a way that it will meet all the requirement for the functioning of the business. Apart from this capital will be utilized in the future operations of the business. So this is the meaning of authorized, nominal or registered share capital. At last, the authorized capital is not fully used by the management. A safety buffer is maintained so that it can be used to raise the additional capital whenever the need arises. It means they keep some amount of authorized capital for future requirement. Now let us move to the next slide, that is issued capital. As I have said that X Limited has got a 10 lakhs authorized capital, and the cost of each share is rupees 10. Total share is equal to 1 lakhs. Now the meaning of issued capital is defined in the section 250. The meaning of issued capital is defined as per section 2 subsection 50 of Companies Act 2013. Issued capital means capital as the company issued from time to time for subscription. Usually companies do not issue all of their shares for control purpose. As we know that the company has got 1 lakhs shares, the company does not issue all the shares to the public for subscriptions. Let us assume that they have issued 50,000 of shares to the public. Okay, the shares that the company issued for the public will be called as issued share capital. It means that 50,000 shares will be considered as what? Issued share capital. We must remember that issued capital is that part of the authorized capital which is offered by a company to the general public for subscription. It means the shares that has been issued to the public is the part of the authorized capital, that is 10 lakhs. The next topic is unissued share capital. Unissued share capital is that part of the authorized share capital which has not been issued by the company for subscription. A company keeps a part of authorized share capital unissued so that it can use the same in futures to raise fund. The part which has been kept reserved by the company represent unissued share capital. As I have said that the company has got X Limited has 10 lakhs authorized capital at the rate of rupees 10 per share and they have got 1 lakhs of total shares. Out of 1 lakhs of total shares, 50,000 shares were issued to the public for subscription, public, and 50,000 is left, which is unissued. Okay, unissued is that part of the authorized capital which has not been issued to the public for subscription. This 50,000 shares is not issued to the public for subscription. This 50,000 is kept as a reserve by the company to represent. This 50,000 unissued share is part of the authorized capital. This shares is kept reserved by the company just to meet the future requirement, and basically for control purpose also they don't issue all the shares, because if the company issue all the shares, that is 1 lakhs to the public, then the promoters will not have any shares, and ultimately he will not have any control over the business. That's why the company keep some of the shares for themselves, and also they keep some part of the shares in order to issue in the futures whenever they feel that they are in need of capital. Now let us discuss subscribed share capital. As we know that 50,000 shares were issued to the public for subscription, and we have taken X Limited as a new established company. Now that 50,000 are generally given to the public for subscription. Now if the reputations of the company X Limited is quite good, or the goodwill, or it has a goodwill, then in that case the public may subscribe all the shares that has been issued to the public. But if the goodwill of the newly established company is not good at all, the management are not good, the board of directors and all the employees are not good, in that case the public may not subscribe all the shares that they have issued. Out of 50,000, the public may subscribe only 40,000 shares, and remaining 10,000 may not be subscribed by the public. So that 40,000 which has been subscribed by the public will be called as subscribed shares capital. Now let us go to the definition. Subscribed share capital is that part of issued share capital for which a company has positively received subscription from the investors. In simple words, when a company issued shares to raise fund, it may or may not find the investors for all the shares. Thus, the part of issued share capital for which company has successfully found the subscriber is known as subscribed share capital. It means the person or the investors who has subscribed the shares, they will be called as a subscriber, or we can say that equity shareholders. Now let us discuss call-up share capital. As we know that X Limited has issued 50,000 shares to the public for subscription. Out of 50,000, 40,000 shares were subscribed by the public or by the investors. Okay. Now, since the investors have subscribed the shares of the company will call the investors to pay the money. Practically, the shares amount are not collected at once. The company may collect the amount in different form, for example like applications, in the name of applications, in the name of allotment, in the name of first call, and in the name of second and final call. Let us assume that the cost of application is ₹3, the cost of allotment is 2, first call is 3, and the final call is 2, because the cost of each share is ₹10. Therefore the total will be 3 plus 2, 5, 8, 2. So after the subscription, the company will ask the investors to pay the remaining amount. Okay, so when the company sent an intimations, okay, intimations means the company will send a letter to the investors to pay the remaining amount to the company. All right, the remaining share amount to the company. So when company asks to pay the remaining share amount to the company, that amount will be considered as what? Call up share capital, because the company has called the investors to pay the amount. The next topic is paid up share capital. Paid up share capital, as we know that X Limited has issued 50,000. Out of 50,000, 40,000 shares were subscribed, and the investor are asked to pay in a different form, that is allotment 2 first call, 3 final call 2. Now in the previous slide I have said that the company will send an intimations to pay the amount of share that they have subscribed. Now if the investors pays the amount, okay, if the investors pay the amount of applications, allotment, first call and final call, then that amount will be considered as paid up share capital. The definition says that the paid up capital refers to the amount that has been received by the company through the issue of shares to the shareholder. Simply, the money injected into the firm by the shareholder in exchange for the shares purchased by them will be called as paid up capital. It means the amount which has been paid by the shareholder or injected into the firm as a capital will be considered as paid up share capital. Next, now let us discuss uncalled share capital. As we know that X Limited had issued 50,000 shares to the public for subscription. Out of 50,000 shares, 40,000 shares were subscribed by the public. The subscriptions amount are collected in a various form, like we have applications, allotment, first call, and at last we have a second and final call. We have taken applications as rupees 3, allotment as rupees 2, first call rupees 3, and at last second and final call as rupees 2. Now let us assume that applications and allotment money are paid by the subscriber or the investors. Now these two amount may not be called by the company during the operational business cycle. Okay, the amount which has not been called by the company for the payment for the shares that investors has purchased will be regarded as uncalled share capital. Let's see the definitions. Uncalled share capital is that part of subscribed share capital which has not been called for payment by a company. A company calls for only part of shares price at the time of allotment. The remaining part is called up at later date. This uncalled or remain part is known as uncalled share capital. It means when any company does not call to make a payment of all the amount, the remaining part which has not been called by the company will be regarded as uncalled share capital. Now let us go to the next. Have reserve capital. Before understanding reserve capital, we need to understand the differences between reserve fund and reserve capital. All right, now reserve fund are those funds which are kept aside out of profit. Okay, if the company earn profit, then some portions of the profit will be kept as a reserve fund in order to meet the contingent or in order to meet the future uncertainties. but reserve fund are kept after the payment of all the liabilities to the various creditors, like we have got interest on debentures, interest on loans, even after the payment of dividend to the preference shareholder, and after the payment of a dividend to the equity shareholder. Whereas reserve capital are those capital which can be called after the liquidations of the business. Let's see the definition. Reserve capital is defined as part of subscribed or uncalled capital which will not be called up until and unless the company goes into liquidations. It means reserve capital are those capital which are called, okay, during the shutdown of the business. Now, in order to have a reserve capital, a special resolution has to be passed at annual general meeting under section 99 of Indian Companies Act 1956. Without passing a special resolution during the annual general meeting, a reserve capital cannot be kept. Now, what is this reserve capital? Okay, as we know that allotment and applications money are paid, we have assumed, but first call and second call money was not called for payment, so the amount or the shares which has not been called by the company to make a payment during the operations of the business, that amount will be kept as a reserve capital. So the first and second call money will be called during the liquidations of the business. It means when the companies are shut down, at that time only the amount for first call and second call will be called up in order to make a payment. So this type of fund will be considered as reserve capital. So this is all about the various types of share capital. If you have any problem, you can contact me directly. I'm going to provide notes for all the topic that I have taught through my videos. Thank you. Have a nice day. Take care and be safe.